loves you, make you cry? Who hits you, make you lie? Cause love is one to hide, but hiding is blind. You're more than one you love when you wanna be loved.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Laura with Stuff I Find Interesting. Episode 61, if you're keeping track. Happy Sunday. Getting ready to head into a new week. I just woke up from a nap. I'm just a little fuzzy, but I have a huge episode for you today. Huge. Lots and lots and lots of fun, interesting stuff to talk about. Hope everybody had a great week. I know my week was pretty good. Nothing to complain about. But in order to get in the mood of all of this stuff I find interesting, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to go get our nails done. I find that I always feel better when I get my nails done. I'm being sarcastic, obviously, because I have no nails to speak of. But could you imagine? Look at this. What is happening here? Crazy, right? Oh, let me adjust this stupid thing. Here we go. Is that better? That's better, right? Now you can see my face. My whole face. I'm not obstructed. All right, so getting our nails done to get in the mood. Next thing is we need to slip into something comfortable. And I'm thinking this is just the thing that the doctor ordered. Look at this. So this is a turtle pillow that you can wear. Yes, you heard me. You can wear it. And you can lay down in it. And so this is wearing it. This is just laying on it. Obviously, the cats are not in it, but they probably could be. Here we have someone. These are all the different sizes. So I guess we have small size, medium size, and big size for your comfort and enjoyment. This adorable giant tortoise shell plush throw pillow simulate the image of a turtle shell. The gap in the middle allows you to drill in and stretch out your limbs. Sweetly hiding in his little turtle shell, become the little turtle. So, there you go. If you want to become a little turtle. And then we have alternate stuff, such as a shark blanket hoodie onesie. And then there's looks like we have a different type of wearable turtle pillow thing. This is a sea turtle. The other one was a regular turtle. Okay, all right. All right, so we got our nails done. Got our clothes on. Let's get something to drink, shall we? What do we want? We want, here we have some hooch. Prison hooch. Made with circus peanuts. Kelly, my sister, if you are watching, this is for you. You can make some circus peanuts. So you boil down the liquid, put it in one of these special doohickeys with the off-gassing, what do you call it? and there you go. And this person says that's what they serve at Hell's Company picnic. Probably. But let's say you don't like circus peanuts. How about Peeps? Make a beverage out of Peeps. Here we go. Let's say, how did it turn out? We'll check back. This was posted a month ago. This person's probably got better things to do than to answer people asking about their Peep hooch. But we'll see. All right, let's get started. As I accidentally back out of things that I'm trying to show you. 125-ton stone perfectly placed at Sacsayhuaman, Peru, an incredible feat of megalithic masonry. So we've been talking a lot about megalithic structures. It's something that I'm kind of into. And this is, other than Japan, I have some stuff about Japan. We might take a break from the megaliths for just a little bit. Here's some pictures. But the reason why I bring this back up and the reason why I'm talking about this at the beginning is because there was something I read that caught my attention that I want to share with you. These were not made by aliens and giants, just so we are all clear. That's the moderator of this subreddit because, you know, that's important. We got to make sure that we know that aliens and giants have not made it. Let's see. Amazing thing that doesn't get much mention is that these are just the foundation stones. So what we're looking at are the foundation stones of structures. Here's the part that got my attention. I've read they've found evidence of a biological-based mortar that would slowly dissolve the stone, which led to the perfect form fit. I've not heard this before. And then there's another thing down here that says, I can't find the article, but some geologists think that the constant tiny earthquakes from local fault lines help vibrate them into this tight position. Another thing I have not heard of. But not so much the earthquake thing, but the other thing, the acidic mortar. Like, what's that about? I haven't heard that before, so let's go and take a look at that. It's a reddish, glittery mud that the Inca used for perfecting their stone masonry. Due to its impressive appearance, Inca masonry, which mostly consists of volcanic silica containing rock material, has received much attention. A high level of understanding has consequently been reached of the diverse working steps and tools applied. An exception is the reddish mud, the Yannick Alpa in the Quechua language, and the gold mentioned by early chroniclers as mortar, which fitted the stones and later disappeared. Such techniques were related to folklore and not taken seriously. This study tries to understand them, and the question was asked, did Inca builders have access to very acid mud? They did, and they used the acid mud from their mines, which generated sulfuric acid through bacterial oxidation of pyrite. And it talks about it a little bit more, how this is possible. Now, if you think about it, this kind of makes a lot of sense, right? If they used an acidic mortar, breaks down the rock sort of joins together with no obvious join marks. Or, you know, they say that you can't fit a piece of paper between them. Interesting to think about. Maybe we'll come back to this. Maybe we won't. I'm not really sure. But it's fascinating to think about. But we're still going to talk about rocks. I have some interesting things that I would like to show you. And this is going to start.
Oh man, I'm so excited to see this.
So this is Western Mine Detective.
Yep.
And this guy's exploring in the desert.
Got a fender off of his vehicle, or a rear bumper.
And this gentleman has heard about a
these
castle built under the boulders of the
yelling
desert.
drums.
So he's going to find it. And there we go.
Look at this. Oh man, this place is amazing.
There we go. Look at
Got
that.
a bench right here, another one right here. Look at the steps.
Built under the rock.
Door.
Very cool, right?
Look at this.
I don't know if he goes into it. Does he go into it? Yes, he goes into it. This is the, oh. That was the inside of it. Let's go back. All right, so here we have the inside and some pictures. Some more pictures of what it looked like. So let's see what it says. The summer of 2006, I was part of a crew that rehabilitated the structure. After decades of abandonment, the stone walls were starting to fall apart, and the pack rats had made nests almost everywhere. So Joshua Tree National Park Service hired our crew to do some preservation work. We were based out of Tucumori National Historic Park in southern Arizona, and our leader, Dave, was one of the leading experts of preservation of structures in the Southwest. The newer cement-based mortar you saw is our work. And I hate to confess this, but those sunglasses are mine. I vaguely remember breaking them. So, this is in Joshua Tree Monument. This is another cabin that's in Joshua Tree Monument. Joshua Tree Monument is, in case for those of you who don't know, let me show you. It's in California. I used to live near there. And it's a, I don't know why it's showing up in alternate places. Why is it showing up there? I don't know. It's very strange. So this is the part I'm talking about. Here we have Huntington Beach, Los Angeles, directly across Joshua Tree National Park Monument. Here is the Park Visitor Center. Why is it showing up in the middle of the city? I don't understand any of this. Very strange. See, this is why you check out your stuff ahead of time, people. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. Wonder Valley. Okay, I'm not showing you anything of any interest other than the general location of where it is. So we have Baja, San Diego, Joshua Tree, 29 Palms is right here. And 29 Palms is... Where is 29 Palms? Do I not know? I do not know. Desert Hot Springs, Keys View. I'm like all disoriented all of a sudden. What the heck? Oh, this is it right here. This is the 29 Palms. This is the base where I lived. Up here are the mountains where I used to run around. Okay. I feel satisfied. That was not necessary for anything that I'm talking about other than satisfying my own curiosity of where I lived. So this is another place where there's a very cool cabin. This is called Eagle Rock. And it's stunning. Look at this. It's got a super high ceiling. We've got stove implements, bottles, jars, like a backyard kind of area. It's amazing. It's really amazing. But you guys might like that. Here we have another cabin under a rock. This is different than the cabin that I just showed you. So it just goes to show that wherever human beings go, they use what's around them to create their living situation. And in this case, the miners of the Joshua Tree Monument in that area they were looking for gold. So there were the mines that were the legal mines where, you know, people went and you got a paycheck or whatever. And then there were mines where that people just sort of created themselves or looked for themselves. So this is probably someone who is doing some independent prospecting, and judging by the structure, they must have found enough to at least keep themselves minimally comfortable under a boulder. This is another boulder cabin, but this one is not in the same... Let's see where this one is located. This is in Utah. I was just kind of going on a search for places that exist within the rocks. This is more about the Eagle Cliff Mine place. I think it is it? Oh, look, I opened that up twice. And I think the reason why I had this open is because I made this exact journey minus the walk to the mine place. It just brought back memories of running around there, but there's nothing really to add. But let's say you don't want a house built under some boulders, and let's say that you've struck it big. You found all kinds of gold. Well, we can also get a house built into the boulders. Not a shack, mind you, but a whole house. So this is a whole house hidden amongst the boulders. 60% of the structure is made from rock. It's been featured in over 30 publications, books, and international TV shows. The ancient engravings chiseled into the rocks that make up the home's exterior have earned it a place in the National Register of Historic Places. The stucco has clear adobe influences. Adobo's a spice. According to the listing, the home was called the most original home in America by author Stanley Marcus. We have the front door. Look at that. So inside you have the furniture, and then you have the rocks. The house is built around the rocks. So the whole house is custom. Many of the home's halls and corridors are rather dark due to the apparent lack of windows. Light streaks can be seen through a few skylights. But it's Arizona. I mean, you don't really want a whole lot of sun coming through. To move through the home, you must shimmy through rock hallways. They say that like that's a bad thing. I think that's wonderful. Who wouldn't want to look at a giant boulder face while eating dinner? The kitchen is small but well appointed and sunny. So this person doesn't seem very excited about this boulder house, but I'm here to tell you that this is very exciting, and I would snap this up in a heartbeat if I had the money. What would give me pause is the area. I'm not a huge fan of the desert. I kind of like the northeast of the United States with the seasons and the lack of natural disasters. Plus, there's a lot of issues with the water out in Arizona right now, and I don't know. That's one of the things I think about sometimes. Like when I can't sleep at 2:00 in the morning, I think about like, what if we ran out of water? What would happen? What would that look like? What would my town turn into if the water suddenly disappeared? And the only thing I come up with is nothing good will happen as a result of that. Rock classics, the most extraordinary stone buildings on Earth in pictures. We love that, right? We love the pictures. This is a church, and I actually happen to know where this church is. This church is in Lake Lucerne in Italy, like Italy, Switzerland. Lake Luongo, I think, is the lake that's nearest to this. And there used to be a little stone sort of grotto that people would travel to. It was very humble, but people would walk up the side of the mountain to get to this grotto. And in the place of where this grotto was, there's now this huge modern church built by Mario Botta, who's a very famous architect and is known for his unusual styles, especially when it comes to churches. He's very unconventional. This is the Pont du Gard. We're just looking at stone structures. This is in Saudi Arabia. It's very imposing looking, right? The House of Rock. This House of Rock was created by an engineer who took advantage of the way huge glacial rocks had littered the landscape. Walls were bridged with rough concrete to create a simple shelter. It now sits in the middle of a wind farm, though ironically remains off-grid. From what I understand, you can't actually so much... I mean, you could live in it if you had to, but the guy mainly made it just to say that he could make it. Like, I made a house in a boulder. Church of St. George, Lalibela, Ethiopia. This is one of those carved churches. So this is the ground. And this big hole here that you see, all of that was dug out to create this church inside. It's an incredible achievement. And it's not the only church of its kind. There are several like it. The remains of a 12th century monastery and brewery were combined to create this contemporary art gallery in an alpine valley. The former brewery took advantage of a source of mineral water and was partly hewn from the rock in the 19th century. Both buildings are protected, and the architects were keen to preserve their religious and geological resonance. External architectural changes were deliberately minimal. Internally, however, 8,000 tons of rocks were excavated to provide additional gallery space. So this is a museum, I guess, that was made in the mountains. This is is this more about the same thing? No, different. This is a radio station that broadcasts across the remote northwest of Nepal. Studios and meeting rooms are arranged around this courtyard while deep canopies provide shade. We're going to have to look into that one. I need to mark this for another time. Like, I wonder what kind of music they play. I mean, other than the obvious answer being Nepalese music. Challenging conventions of mosque design, the subterranean sacred space is reached via shallow terrace-like steps that emphasize the relationship between landscape and the low-slung building itself. Because the building is partly submerged, it benefits from natural insulation, making it low energy. Temple in Stone and Light, India. Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque, Abu Dhabi. This is the Biblioteca Alexandria, Egypt. This huge library and cultural center was intended to reinvigorate Alexandria as a place of learning, recalling its heyday when it was home to one of the most important libraries of the ancient world. A giant disc tilts towards the Mediterranean, its angled roof providing glare-free northern light to the 7-tiered reading room, the largest in the world, which accommodates 2,000 readers. The project was beset by criticism on completion. Some argued that more had been spent on the building than on the collection itself. Interesting. Here's another unconventional stone church. This one is in Japan. I really dig that church. Here's another church. This one is in Russia. Bus terminal. A Moorish wall. Okay. And last, with the, almost last, this is a architect who envisions, like, you know how Petra was carved into the rocks to create these very impressive monuments? This architect wants to build homes in boulders. This is an imaginary home. This is not real. This home does not exist. But this architect would like it to exist. Here we have what the whole thing would look like. Obviously not for someone like you or me. This would be for someone wealthy. And this architect has seemingly made a career out of imaginary architecture. So you might say, oh, imaginary architect, he's not actually building anything. There's nothing actually being created. How is there any value to what this guy is doing? And I would say, yeah, I could kind of see that. But people that push the boundaries of things such as architecture, art, music, they can help create new things. They can help invigorate the field with new ideas, and they can push the boundaries of what's possible and what's not possible. And I kind of feel like that's what this guy is doing. Although this one might be real. That one might be real. But you know what? We'll come back to it. Okay, well, I think I'm done with rocks for now. I think we want to stop talking about the rocks, and we want to move on. And you might wonder what I've been doing with myself, because I obviously haven't been making these videos. I've been missing for a while. Well, in addition to struggling physically with some stuff that's making my life a little unhappy at the moment, nothing that'll kill me, I can assure you. I've been listening to a lot of music to help make me feel better. So I have some music I want to share with you. Some music, hopefully none of it is copywritten, because if it is, it'll like make that part silent on the YouTube when I publish it. But these are bands' songs that have less than, like, say, 2,000 votes or viewers, and I think they're really good. And they're completely random. They're like in no order. And it's just music that I've discovered this week. Some of it's kind of old, like it was from like a while ago, but I found it recently. And some of it is more modern. We're going to start with Fantastic Cat, which is by far one of the best things I've found in a couple weeks as far as music goes. I absolutely love this band, and I'm going to share it with you now. So this is their music video for All My Fault. And I'm going to play it because I think it's funny.
My name is Kyle. Right here. Hi, my name's Leonard. I'm an executive by day, but
A wild man by night.
Tuna,
Halibut. Bass.
mackerel.
Something I don't want in another person is somebody who's just too obsessive. Hello?
Hey, hello there. Nice to meet you.
I would
I
say.
would say, if we just met.
My name's Dwayne, or as my friends like to call me.
Drunk Dwayne.
Big mouth bass. Small mouth bass.
Hi, I'm Stuart. My passions include inventing new yoga positions.
Hi, Mom.
Is there too much pom-pom in the shot?
Swordfish. Tuna.
Can you tell
In
I've
my
watched
free
this
time?
a few times?
Mostly, I like to work out.
I could blame it on the rain. I could blame it on the snow. I could blame it on the shame of another night alone. I could blame it on you for picking up my call. But to tell the truth,
Oh, it's all my fault.
I could blame it on the moon. I could blame it on the stars. I could blame it on the tune that was playing at the bar. I could blame it on the proof
Of the alcohol. But to tell the truth, oh, it's all my fault. I like that song. All right, next up. Okay, we're going to pass on that. Next up, this is Expanded by Ryan Fisherman. It only has 59 views. I've heard stuff way, way worse than this. That's had way, way, way more votes. So this guy's kind of like independent singer, kind of, you know. Here, I'll have you listen to his voice. Here's his voice. Not bad, right? Totally randomly. Not in love with it, but I like it. It's only got 59 views. You should make that number a little higher. All right, next. This song I like very much. 42 views. I like the lyrics of this song, and I'll explain why.
every single past life that I've been hiding. I'm reciting in this skin it all begins. No more fighting. I'm rewriting. Running fast. Paranoid.
So I like the lyrics of this. I think it captures, you know, what growing older as a human being is like. You know, what it means to discover your own identity and what you want to do and how you want to do it, and you know. But I've lived a lot of lives in my life. So this song I really like because it makes me think of all the different things that I've done and all the lives that I've led to get to this point. And here I am. So what does that mean? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to my life? What lessons am I going to take from those previous lives and bring forward, and what things am I going to discard along the way? Just a little bit of deepness from me. This song I've actually been listening to for about 8 years, I think.
If I told you that I'd rather be alone, I'd be lying.
I've been told that this woman is Australian. So this is an Australian band.
Told you that I didn't hold a flame.
And it's this nice, relaxing song. So I'm thinking whoever wrote that didn't listen to the whole song because it's not really relaxing.
Don't you know?
These are dark days in the sun.
Song feels like I
Not really relaxing.
anyone coming undone. So I just smile on the outside. Don't you know you're my medicine? You're only thinking of me.
That's a good song, right? If you want to hear more of it, you got to click on the links in the description. I'm just sharing the basics. I don't know why I did that. No, I have no interest in that. We got some club music for those of you who like that kind of thing. I'm trying to hide 'cause I'm scared. Much in the end. It's a good song. It's got a solid beat. There's a rock song that I found called Undertone that has 957 views. It's pretty good. I like the bass and the drums. Singer, he's okay. But it feels like the band is, as a whole, is stronger than like the singer himself. But I haven't watched their other stuff, so it could just be that it's just this song that has a stronger melody kind of thing going on. More focus on the this, you know. It's kind of got like a 90s, early 90s grunge vibe, right? Kind of like it. This is Molecular Steve, Heavens to Betsy. Completely random, came up as a suggestion. I said, sure, why not? It's absolutely ridiculous. I have no idea what the song's about. I like it. So I'm including it for you to enjoy. Moving on to the second last one. This is Quadrivial by Smugglers Union, and this is like okay, so it's kind of a slow burn, that song, but it's cool. I like it. But this is my favorite. This is my favorite and my last song, and this is Troy Frederick, who I've shared with you before. But this song is just absolute chef's kiss.
I'm lost, girl, I'm stranded. Please save me, oh, from all this madness.
Just wait.
I'm hoping
The chorus is good. It's worth it.
you left me here with all this damage. I guess my time was no use for you.
This is
It's
dedicated
alright.
to you.
It's pretty,
You know who you are.
to lie. I should get critical, but I don't mind. Instead, all I wanna do is thank you for being a bitch. Thank you for being a hoe. Thank you for making me flip a switch. I thank you much more than you know.
So if you've ever had a relationship where the person did you a real favor by fucking you over, that's what that song is about. And sometimes we're with people and we think that, you know, this is it. This is who I want to be with. This is the relationship that I want. And then something happens and our little heart breaks and we're like, oh my God, no. But then we will look back later and we're like, oh wow, really dodged a bullet on that one. So something that's happening, I talk about climate change with each episode. And it's actually not really on purpose. I don't do that on purpose. It's just that it's out there, you know, this kind of stuff. So these are the ravines that are swallowing entire neighborhoods. And part of this is due to groundwater extraction, oil extraction, construction happening with no like rules and stuff. So there are currently 30 gullies in this location. There are 70,000 people that live in this town. And what's happening are the 30 gullies, the largest two are separated by less than 1 kilometer. If these gullies are not contained, what's going to happen is the two gullies are going to come together and a river is going to be formed. And then it's bye-bye town. So this is a map of the areas that are susceptible to gully erosion. And as I look, I can see where I live. It's actually not low, it doesn't look like. It looks like it's pretty... I live up here. And it's not this color, I can tell. So I didn't know that gullies were an issue here, but I guess they are. This is in... where is this? Two of her dogs fell into the hole and died. Her son almost fell into the hole. There's a house that she built that she can't live in, this particular person. And this goes into how the gullies are formed. It's a nice little, not nice, but it's a visual that very clearly shows how this happens. So if we start back at the beginning, there are not enough plants or trees to absorb the rain because they've all been removed. The drops dislodge the soil particles. Water collects on the surface. Streams form, wear the soil away. Gullies or ravines are created. Here we have an example of one of the ravines, and we can see around it some of the other ones. It's not just in this area. They're also in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Kinshasa has hundreds of urban gullies, one of which is 2 kilometers long. There are more than 165 kilometers of gullies in the city, which is home to 12 million people. So this is a main road that has simply collapsed into a gully in 2021. It will probably never ever be fixed. It'll stay like this forever. So this particular area is permanently altered as a result of this geological activity, which is accelerating around the Earth. Mr. Kadada's children are now frightened at the slightest hint of bad weather. It was the rain that disrupted everything. The rain brought death and despair. We really consider it to be a new geohazard of the Anthropocene, said Professor Van Marke. The Anthropocene is a term used by some scientists to refer to recent times when human activities have profoundly affected the planet. The population of Kinshasa is expected to grow to 20 million by 2030 and 35 million by 2050, becoming the largest megacity in Africa. Uncontrolled urban growth involves cutting down trees, a natural barrier to erosion, and illegal occupation of potentially unstable areas. So this is a whole city that's still developing, but it's in danger of collapsing into itself because of these ravines. Here we can see a side of one of the gullies. So what can be done? With the right engineering and investment, all of this is stoppable. So there needs to be drainage systems. There needs to be rules on how things are built, what is allowed to be extracted from the planet, from the Earth. In that location, for example, you can't go in and remove all the trees, because then if you have no trees, then it's not going to absorb the water's going to build up, it's going to make these gullies. But it comes down to money. If they don't have the money to take these steps to stop the gullies from forming, then the gullies are just going to form. That's all there is to it. Here's another sort of environmental disaster happening, and then we'll move on to other things. But this is the world's largest landfill. It's in India, and it is currently on fire. This video is from 19 days ago. I believe it's still on fire. I don't think it's something that like goes away. Let's see, let's look it up. Let's see if it's still burning. Um, 3 weeks ago they talked about it, but then there was nothing else mentioned. Oh. Oh, wait. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys. This video does not depict a recent fire that occurred at the Geysipur landfill. Recently, social media users have been circulating a video. The video originates, it's from 2022. It's not recent. So, I appreciate that correction. But still, ugh. In local news, UFO that shot down a cylindrical beam of light was reported over New York State. So this was spotted on February 14th. The witness claims they were on their porch. They looked up and saw what they saw. They saw a bright light with a hazy glow around it, slowly moving eastward. The report said that the object moved slower than a plane or a satellite, and that there was a small star-like object that followed it closely. The witness goes on to say that the two objects stopped and emitted a super bright light from what I guess would be the bottom of the craft. It was not an ordinary light. The light turned into an almost perfect cylindrical cone emitting towards the ground, but it didn't quite reach the ground. The resident said that the lights dimmed and apparently merged into one triangle-shaped object. Eventually, the lights disappeared altogether as the encounter lasted for 3 to 4 minutes. So I've seen something similar, and so have a lot of other people in New York State. What is it? What's happening? I don't know. It's interesting, though. Large underground hidden tunnel found in New York State. This is in Buffalo. So apparently under Buffalo, there are tunnels under almost the whole city. And it's obviously not safe to go looking for these tunnels yourself. But let's look at some pictures of them. So these are underground tunnels in Buffalo. These are all in Buffalo. This is an asylum, train station. It's an old dumbwaiter. Wow. This is very cool. What is this? Okay, so tunnels. Tunnels under Buffalo. Switching gears. This week I learned about Nushu, a woman-only language of China. It was a woman's secret calligraphy. Nushu, or Nushu, means literally woman's writing in Chinese. The script was developed by peasant women in Hunan province, China, and used in Jiangxing County, but also probably in Daoxiang and Jinghua counties. It became nearly extinct before its recent discovery. The oldest items are from the very early 20th century, although the language is assumed to have much older roots. The script was often used in embroidery, calligraphy, and handicrafts created by women. It is found on paper, including letters, poetry, written on fans, embroidered on fabric, quilts, aprons, scarves, handkerchiefs. Objects were often buried with women or were burned. While sometimes characterized as a language, it might better be considered a script, as the underlying language was the same local dialect used also by the men in the area, and usually by the men written in Hanzi characters. Nushu, like other Chinese characters, is written in columns with characters running from top to bottom in each column, and columns written from the right to the left. Chinese researchers count between 1,000 and 1,500 characters in the script, including variants for the same pronunciation and function. Ori Endo has concluded that there are about 550 distinct characters in the script. Chinese characters are usually ideograms representing ideas or words. Nushu characters are almost always phonograms representing sounds, with some ideograms. 4 types of stroke make the U characters: dots, horizontals, verticals, and arcs. So, this is kind of cool. Why would women need to have their own language? Why would this be a thing? Well, there's several reasons. One of the main reasons was that the culture in the area only very male dominated. Women were not permitted in education. There was a tradition of sworn sisters, women who were not biologically related but who committed to friendship. In traditional Chinese marriage, exogamy was practiced. A bride joined her husband's family and would have to move, sometimes far away, not seeing her birth family again, or rarely. The new brides were thus under the control of their husbands and mothers-in-law after they married. Their names did not become part of the genealogy. So when you got married in this culture, your past basically didn't matter. Like you didn't bring it with you. Like that was done. So there was a need for women to communicate, to express themselves. They didn't really have an avenue to do so. Many of the Nushu writings are poetic, written in a structured style, and were written about marriage, including about the sorrow of separation. Other writings are letters from women to women, as they found through this female-only script a way to keep in communication with their female friends. Most express feelings, and many are about sorrow and misfortune. Because it was secret, with no references to it found in documents or genealogies, and many of the writings buried with the women who possessed the writings, it is not authoritatively known when the script began. Some scholars in China accept the script not as a separate language, but as a variant on Hanzi characters. Others believe it may have been a remnant of a now lost script of Eastern China. So it declined in the 1920s when reformers and revolutionaries began to expand education. Not education as we might think of it in the United States, because it was like almost like an indoctrination education, but it was education nonetheless. That's very cool, right? Here's some more. Another article which will be included. And loosely, from what I understand, after reading a lot about it, is it's sort of like a Pig Latin, but a Pig Latin for Chinese. So it's the regular Chinese language in this area that was spoken, but it's sort of changed slightly so that it can only be understood by these women who are exchanging these letters. So, very fascinating. Along the same thing, talking about China, something that kind of got me thinking about this is that, so as you guys know, I've spoken very honestly about the fact that I don't really have a family, not like other people have a family. So I had a biological family, and then I had a foster family, and then I had an adoptive family. So as a result, sometimes I feel like I kind of came from nowhere, like I just sort of erupted from the earth, fully formed. Here I am, here's Laura. And I found out a couple of years ago that my relatives on my mom's side were part of, they were railroad workers. That's what they did. They built railroads. They were part of the Delaware line. And they probably did the really rough stuff, I would imagine. And so now when I see trains or I see anything about trains, it kind of makes me think about that and think about, where I come from. And so apparently I come from a long line of train workers and industrial workers, people that were the backbone of society that kept things running. They weren't rich. They were never going to be rich. They weren't important. They weren't popular. They weren't famous. But they held down society. There's something to be proud of in all of that, right? But this isn't about my relatives. This is about the Chinese railroad workers. So there was, in 1969, the Chinese community had high hopes that the ceremony would provide an opportunity for the country to formally recognize the significant contributions of over 12,000 Chinese workers who helped build one of the nation's greatest engineering marvel, that being of the transatlantic railroad line. Instead, Philip Choi, the chairman of the Chinese Historical Society of America, slated to talk for 5 minutes during the ceremony to pay tribute to the Chinese railroad workers, was pushed off the speakers list. The sidelining was especially egregious given the erasure of Chinese workers' contributions throughout the rest of the event. Who else would drill 10 tunnels in mountains 30 feet deep in snow? Who else would have laid 10 miles of track in 12 hours? And this guy who gave this speech made it sound like it was the Americans who did it. But it was actually thousands of Chinese railroad workers, along with 8 Irish rail handlers, who completed that remarkable feat, the product of a bet that Central Pacific Railroad Company made with the competing Union Pacific Railroad Company, whose record time for one day was 7.5 miles of track. The spectacular amount of financing and labor required meant that the completion of the railroad was remarkable by many metrics. The completion of the Iron Horse became shrouded in the romanticized mythology and folklore of the Western expansion. However, the Chinese were not kind of brought into that lore. They're kind of like set to the side. You know, there's this, you know, the expansion and the pioneers, and I think of the movie Far and Away with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, which was an absolute bomb, but I loved it. But it goes into the railroad, the building of the railroad, and it shows Tom Cruise on the train, and he's helping to build it, and then at one point he jumps off the train while it's moving to go find his fortune. But anyway, however, the Chinese were finally recognized during, when was this? When were they recognized? This is from, I believe, from last year. And I'm not finding, it's what I really want to talk about. Okay, we're going to move on. The point being, Chinese railroad workers have not been recognized for the colossal contribution that they have made towards the infrastructure of this country. These are some pictures of what the camps would have looked like, what the work would have looked like. Very, very rough work. You're slinging huge hammers at railroad tie things. You're blowing up road. You're digging out road. I mean, there's just, it's crazy how they did it. I mean, if we look, roads had to be built. Just an amazing time in history. Here's one of, this is in Utah. Look at that incredible photo. Archaeologists help modern descendants of Chinese railroad laborers commemorate their ancestors. In 1864, 15-year-old Huang Leihua and his older brother, Huang Shihua, laid an offering at the Hung family temple in Dailong village, Guangdong, China. They were about to cross the Pacific Ocean to raise their family's fortunes by working at a U.S. railroad. They would labor 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, preparing the ground for the tracks to follow and blasting through the solid granite bedrock of the Sierra Nevada mountains, happy if they advanced 6 inches a day. Hung Leihua would become the boss of a work gang of 30 men. Hung Shihua would lose an eye to the endeavor. Many others would lose their lives. As the two brothers burned incense and bowed before the altar of their ancestors, they had no way of knowing that it would be over 150 years before a descendant of theirs, Russell Lowe, retraced their steps on the American railroad. And then it talks about Mr. Lowe and his attempts to sort of dig into the past and find out, here we have the railroad that we're talking about. And it looks so small, right, on the screen. It's just like two little lines, blue line and the red line. Oh, and then there's a little green line at the end. But we're talking thousands of miles here. Lowe walked away from the crowd, so there was a ceremony. As he told me the next day, he had come to see what it was like for the young man who left everything he had known and who found himself at one point right where the trestle now rested. Starting with a 1903 family picture he discovered in his great-uncle's belongings, Lowe has combined meticulous historical research with recorded family interviews to trace the stories of his ancestors and share those in his book, 3 Coins. He told me how he had looked for the long, thin scar of the railroad grade to the open, barren landscape around him. He had put his hands on some of the 400-pound stones that formed a culvert. He was impressed by the railroad workers' mechanical abilities, but that observation paled in comparison to the impression of touching the stone that they touched. So this is an article about his journey. little bit history lesson, a little bit archaeology lesson. A really good article to read. And these are some photos that I just wanted to share with you before we move on to the next topic. And we're heading into conspiracy land almost. So this here, this part here used to be level with this up here. So what is that? 50 feet? I don't know. It's tall. That's a lot of stuff that was removed that was there. It wasn't obviously just the Chinese that did this. A lot of people that had really like kind of nowhere else to go in society ended up heading out in that direction to make their fortune. Probably some of my relatives. Okay. The mystery of the Victorian purple dye. William Henry Perkin, a young London chemist, patented a synthesis in 1856 for a purple dye he created by accident while trying to synthesize quinine, a Victorian anti-malarial. This discovery brought purple, a color so expensive it had previously only been afforded by the royalty and the church, to the mass market. But there is an unsolved mystery. Using Perkin's patented method, it is impossible to recreate the product he made. So there's this purple dye that was invented that revolutionized fashion and color. And we're not real sure how he did it. Throughout history, purple clothes have been worn almost exclusively by the richest in society due to the expense of creating purple dyes. Phoenician dye, known as the purple of the ancients, is a famous example made from predatory sea snails. Purple became the height of fashion in Paris and London in the late 1850s to the 1860s, and the frenzy over mauve became known as mauveine measles. Even Queen Victoria was not exempt from the excitement, appearing in 1862 wearing a silk dress colored by mauveine. Wife of Napoleon III, Empress Eugenie, wore mauveine dyed dresses to state functions. But within this story there lurks a curious mystery. Closer inspection of Perkin's synthesis method reveals he may have been hiding something. There are 8 bottles of mauveine alleged to have been made by Perkin left in the whole world, spread across 6 museums in 4 cities. Museum-stored mauveine was tested in the 1990s and is rich in 2 main components, the chromophores of mauveine known as mauveine A and mauveine B. Dr. Plater at the University of Aberdeen repeated Perkin's synthesis as it was written in the original patent, and this is where the curiosity begins. This synthesis produces not 2 chromophores of mauveine, but 4, A, B, B2, and C. Did Perkins miss something when he patented this method? Or are the samples not genuine? To solve this mystery, Dr. Plater began investigating the synthesis of mauveine. Perkin's starting material was an aniline extracted from coal tar and later made commercially from coal tar, which would have also contained 2 impurities, ortho and para-toluidine, which would have a similar chemical structure to aniline. Dr. Plater's attempts to make mauveine from different combinations of aniline and toluidines were always unsuccessful. He never managed to create a product with only the A and B chromophores. Every synthesis created 4 chromophores of mauveine. Removing the B2 and the C chromophores was also impossible. So he's testing these samples, this guy, this in modern times, and he's using liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry. Chromatography, mass spectrometry to identify the chromophores present in these mauveine samples. So this guy's trying to find out exactly how this was made. So the ultimate question, the summary, as we keep this moving, is why would Perkin patent one method for making mauveine but use another? An answer may be to do with the yield of product. Dr. Plater notes that mauveine is actually very difficult to make. The yields are low, about 1%. The method proposed by Dr. Plater increases the yield to about 5%. Perkin discovered the synthesis by accident, but clearly understood the chemistry well enough to understand the need for research and development. Oh, but wait. There might have been another answer, and that is that Perkin wanted to avoid his competition getting a hold of his secrets. So he was like the first person to come up with this, and it was probably deliberately obfuscated so that other people could not get a hold of his recipe and use it to create Mauvine. So this is a personal response. I have worked on the synthesis and analysis of Perkins Mauvine for a decade with the best modern equipment, having experienced firsthand many times the impossibly difficult selective precipitation or crystallization of Mauvine to give Mauvine A and B, or the selective synthesis of Mauvine A and B from different compositions of amines. I believe that the modified method discussed here was exploited by Perkin. So far, the tert butylated Mauvines of this modified method are traceless and have not appeared in bottles, in bulk, or on dresses, but such a find would surely convince the most skeptical person of the hypothesis. Perhaps the manufacturer of Perkins Dahlia has left a hint about modified Mauvines because the extra nitrogen substituted group from which this contains form a family and were not out of synthetic reach in the 1860s. Okay. So what does Mauvine look like? Look at this dress. Just like... This dress makes my eyeballs vibrate in like the best of ways. This color is just insane, as is the tailoring and detailing. Look at all these seams, the darts on the back, the poof on the side. I'm sure there's a name for that. Look how small people's waists were back then. Women do not have small waists like that anymore. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's probably good, right? It's probably unhealthy to have a waist that small. Beautiful. Here we have some more. Oh, I think this is just a page that I found when I was looking at Mauvine. This is Defunct Fashion. And I actually marked this more for personal reasons than this particular episode of stuff I find interesting. At my new job at the school, there's a little girl that comes and hangs out with me on her lunch break. And I don't take a lunch so I can like hang out with her. Her name is Afiza, and her parents are from the Middle East. I'm not sure where, but they're fairly recent to this country. She loves fashion, absolutely loves fashion. So we talk about fashion, and I show her stuff. And this particular fashion on this page is okay to show because of her Muslim beliefs. I don't want to show anything that's going to be too immodest or scandalous, but these types of dresses are very beautiful to show to a little girl. Look at this. She's going to be like, wow. I'm going to show her this tomorrow. So that's why that's saved. As an aside, not that anybody asked. To celebrate 100 years since the birth of William Perkin, we explore the items in the collection linked to his most famous invention, Mauvine. Here we have one of the 6 bottles that exist in the world. And Perkin is the second from the right. He's this guy right here with the beard. Look at this guy. He's kind of handsome. Although this guy's really cute. This guy is Mr. Stocks. Here we have a sample of Mauvine. This is from a dress that was supplied to Queen Victoria. And that's it. I just wanted to show you guys some of the pictures. Here are some more pictures. This is on Pinterest, though. Pinterest has become a hot mess of garbage. Like, look at all these ads. Like, it just interferes with everything. And I went into settings and I turned them off, and I'm still getting all these ads. So I'm like a little irritated. But at the same time, like, I can see something like, like this, but then there's all these things for shoes. I've been looking at shoes lately, which is why shoes are popping up all over my Pinterest. But if you have the patience to deal with the stupid ads, there's a lot of fun stuff to be seen on this page. Although my question is, I don't know. So this is my personal Pinterest. If I share this page and you open it up, does it look the same or does it look different? Maybe someone can let me know. This is something that we're going to save for another time. This is the dado ring. This is a ring that that was a successful treatment for cancer in the 1970s that the FDA suppressed. This is probably better served for a different episode. So now we're heading into conspiracy land. We're on the home stretch. And what we're going to start with is, again, going back to megalithic structures and pre-Angkorian runes. So in Cambodia, you think of those huge, massive temples with the trees growing into the rock, and it's all, sprawling, whatever. There was a culture that existed before any of that, and they also built their own stone, whatever this is. So this is a personal person, she's cute, on Reddit who went and saw these ruins and then posted a personal thing. I've heard a theory that, these are some of the comments, I've heard a theory that Angkor Wat was built atop a more ancient site, possibly many times over, and so there are layers of ruins underneath it. And then someone says, a lot of archaeological sites have this. If a place is good enough for one group of people to build on, it's probably good enough for many people to build on. So if we think about the step pyramid, there's some argument that the step pyramid is that the bottom core of it is more ancient than what's on top of it. Same thing with the Sphinx, the Great Sphinx of Egypt. There is some thought that the Sphinx of Egypt is way older than we think it is, or than is publicly acknowledged. So it kind of goes off a little bit talking about terra preta, which is the type of soil that was used. This person says that where did the bones, blood, and offal of 100K a year of human sacrifices, plus the 200K a year natural deaths in the empire go? No one's ever found a Maya or Olmec or Aztec cemetery with thousands of bodies on it. They had to burn it, and that's how they made their terra preta. I don't know that that's actually true. I do think that bones were used, but let's see. Recipe terra preta. Biochar, topsoil. This recipe used crushed charcoal, fungal wood chips, household compost, chicken gizzard, urine, and more. The goal is to add calcium, nitrogen, bacteria, and fungus to the charcoal before using it in the garden. So this is sort of a do-it-yourself if you wanted to make it. So the Native Americans, they know for sure that it was charcoal and it was mixed with organic matter and broken pottery. And that's how it was made. Can we make it today? Yes. Not to the extent that it was used, though. Like, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of acres that were covered with this terra preta that are just gone. And is it gone because it's gone because it got all used up and now there's no more nutrients left in the soil. So this is the land of Chem, and it's referenced in that Reddit thing we were just looking at. This is, I believe there's a video in here where he talks about Cambodia. So let's do a search. Oops, if I could spell. Cambodia? No. Okay, let's look. Laos. Okay, no. It's probably here, it just probably hasn't. It's further down. Okay, you know what? I'll find it for next time. This is all about the pyramids. Wow, this guy's really into the pyramids. Like, really into the pyramids. Wow. How can you do so many episodes about pyramids? Is there really that much to talk about? Well, that's fascinating. We're going to have to save this for another time as well. So the Khmer Empire, also known as the Angkor Empire, succeeded the kingdoms of Chenla and Funan. So the pictures that I showed you at Reddit, that woman running around in the old ruins that preceded the Cambodian ruins that we, are popular, that we know of today, was the Chenla and Funan. In case you were wondering. Now, something I noticed when I was looking at maps of Cambodia is I found these arrows. I was like, what is that? That's an arrow. Let's scroll way out and see what we're looking at here. Looks like we have some water, dry land. It looks like all this here is like soupy, swampy, probably water with lots of plants in between. That's definitely water. That's definitely water. Yeah, you can see the square beds too. We can see we have some shapes in here. Let me go to here. We've got some more arrows. Okay, all right. We've got more arrows. So at this point, I was convinced, after looking at these maps of Cambodia, that I had found something revolutionary and I was going to be famous and my face was going to be in all the archaeology magazines. But it turns out that those are fish traps that are seen from the air. They are fish traps. And if we look here, it talks about the arrow-shaped traps that are operated by the fisherfolk of the Tonle Sap. They are constructed using bamboo wooden poles and fencing and can measure up to 500 meters long, which is why we can see them from outer space. Traps are usually made up of 1 to 3 layered entrances shaped like arrows, which funnel fish towards the final capture room. Here we can see one from close up. Here, this would be the funnel. The fish would get funneled. While these traps have been used widely by local fishers for years, little is known about their impact on the lake fishery, how much fish they catch, and how much the catch contributes to the economy of Cambodia. The Wonders of the Mekong research team is on a mission to answer these questions. Arrow-shaped traps often catch more than just fish. That day, the traps had 2 pythons that needed to be released back in the wild. Pythons are non-venomous and play a vital role in the ecosystem of the Tonle Sap. While many local people choose to keep the snakes for food or selling in the market, these fishers decided to release the snakes back into their home. So there's the snake. The other thing that's coming up in the traps are the golden apple snail, which is invasive. Here's this particular trap had over 90 pounds of snails. What they do with them, I don't know. But once the fishing is done, you go back to the shade of the lake house in the floating village, and you prepare for an afternoon of sorting, identifying, counting, weighing, and measuring the species from each trap. So what I didn't show you on the map that I closed out is that next to those arrows you can see little huts, and those would be the fishing huts. All right. Oop arts. What's an oop art? This is a video. We're not going to watch it, but it's there for you to watch on your own free time. An oop art is an out-of-place artifact. So it's a contentious group of anomalous artifacts, which includes anthropomorphic discoveries which have been found in geological strata formed before humans are believed to have existed. At present, the following artifacts are classified as anomalous or fake. Should just one of these art discoveries be verified by the scientific establishment, it would force a reappraisal of either the processes of geology or the theory of human development. I would argue that there's probably a little bit on both sides that need to be appraised. That being, humans were much more developed in the past than we give them credit for, and also that geology is way more wild and crazy also than we give it credit for. For example, if there's an earthquake and the soil is of a certain type of soil, everything can become liquefied. Everything suddenly, buildings, people, suddenly you're embedded in mud with the shaking. Liquefaction occurs. and just swallows everything. And that's how something could happen with liquefaction, because then it's mud, then the mud hardens, becomes stone. Certain types of stone can be created faster than others. So there was a fossilized hammer that was found embedded in a rock. It was verified as authentic, but what does it tell us? We don't know. The bygone pipes, we've talked about this before. The bygone pipes, there is speculation that there's a pyramid in that part of the world and that the pipes are not pipes, that there's somehow, I don't even know, alien stuff. But the reality is that they're probably just irrigation infrastructure, plumbing. And the reason why we can't wrap our head around it is because at that time we have not yet ascribed the ability of these peoples to create plumbing, when in reality they probably did. Here's the hammer that was found embedded in rock. So what's proposed for this is not aliens or mystical processes. It's that there was a crack in the rock and it fell into the crack. And then there was, with rain and just stuff precipitating out of the ground, it hardened around the crack. So you have the crack that the hammer fell into, and then it hardened around it. Not exactly mysterious. South African spears, known as the Klerksdorp spheres. Over the past several decades, South African miners have found hundreds of metallic spheres, at least one of which has 3 parallel grooves running around its equator. The spheres are of 2 types. One of solid bluish metal with white flecks, and the other is a hollow ball filled with a white spongy center. The sphere in the photo on the right was found in a Precambrian mineral deposit, making it an unlikely 4,500 million years old. Some of the spheres can be seen in the museum at Klerksdorp, South Africa. At least 200 have been found and extracted out of deep rock at the Wonderstone silver mine in South Africa, averaging 1 to 4 inches in diameter and composed of a nickel-steel alloy that does not occur naturally. Some have a thin shell about 1/4 inch thick, and when opened are filled with a strange spongy material that disintegrates into dust upon contact with air. So this is actually quite fascinating. What are these stones? Why are they there? I would argue that perhaps they're from mining in the past. I don't actually know. Some people say that they are limonate concretions, meaning that they formed naturally. They've precipitated out and formed naturally. But there's no real definite agreement on how they were formed. The Cambodian Stegosaurus is another oop art. Here we have what looks to be a Stegosaurus. And we know that the original carving is the same as, we know that, oh, this is terrible. This is obviously a translation of some kind. It is known that the Stegosaurus is the same as the rest of the temple in Ta Prohm, Cambodia, which we were just talking about Cambodia. And this is the 11th century. So this whole structure is from the 11th century, and yet there is a Stegosaurus. Then we have fossilized human footprints alongside dinosaur footprints. Does that mean that humans and dinosaurs existed together? We don't really know. But what is absolutely 100% positive and confirmed is that there are mammal tracks that exist in this particular place in the Zapata track, which is in New Mexico, which I think I've brought up before, this particular spot. But there are mammal tracks, and mammals did not exist during the Permian period, which this particular area is absolutely 100% from. So there's the Permian area, there's the mud, and there's all these tracks in the mud, and some of the tracks belong to animals that should not have existed during that time period. That is a real, actual mystery that existed. And in 1987, paleontologist Jerry McDonald discovered a wide variety of fossilized tracks from different species of animals and birds located in a Permian strata. Among the various fossilized tracks were the clear prints of a human foot. However, the Permian strata has been dated from 290 to 248 million years ago, millions of years before animals, birds, dinosaurs, and yes, man. How can these prints be explained? In July 1992, the Smithsonian Magazine had an article on these tracks called Petrified Footprints, a puzzling parade of Permian beasts. The magazine acknowledged the mystery, acknowledging that what paleontologists like to call problematic. It described what appeared to be large mammal and bird tracks that evolved long after the Permian period, yet these tracks are clearly Permian. While it is commendable that MacDonald and the Smithsonian clearly acknowledge the existence of these tracks in a strata that contradicts the current evolutionary theory, it is noteworthy that they highlight only the animal and mammal and bird prints and don't mention the human footprint found with them. Interestingly enough, since these tracks have been discovered, evolutionists have not tried to argue their authenticity or debunk them, nor have they tried to argue that the footprint isn't human. Their silence is deafening. So that's a real thing. This is for you to look at. Here we have some more anomalous artifacts. We've got the Antikytherium mechanism. We have the Nebra sky disk. The huge stone balls of Costa Rica. There's something for you to check out. All right, as we head into the final stretch here, this is an article about how gunpowder is made. But the part that I want to point out is how incredible these pictures are and the detail that has been put into them. This is from a German publication that was dated 1594. So in 1594, someone painted this, drew this, and it shows how gunpowder and fireworks were made. Well, how the gunpowder was made, and then how it was utilized in fireworks and in weapons. And it's really quite detailed. This guy looks like he's shooting some kind of blunderbuss. I'm not sure what that's about. That's kind of a strange thing, right? The origins of fireworks lay in China, but European fireworks followed a distinctive development after their introduction from the East in the 13th to 14th centuries. Early European fireworks were used for war, with rockets, bombs, fire tubes, and grenades being hurled against enemies through the 15th and the 16th centuries. There were also peaceful fireworks, adding drama to church plays and festivals with squibs attached to flying angels or pyrotechnics made to represent the fiery mouth of hell. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the fireworks of the battlefield and the church slowly merged into peaceful displays of military pyrotechnics, first in religious plays for the courts and then in secular triumphs and performances based on classical allegories. By the close of the 16th century, many European courts employed gunner artificers to stage grand fireworks marking royal occasions, military victories, and the new year. These pictures are incredible. This is a fun little rabbit hole to fall into. Look at this guy. He's like, making my fireworks. Looks like he's sitting on something and hammering something. Like, I'm not real sure what's happening there, but pretty sure the fireworks were not floating on a turtle. Again, we have something strange and anomalous. I think it's just artistic license. Two dudes fighting and a dragon. Cool stuff. Okay. This is Avoriaz, the Enchanting Village. This is a ski resort village. But the architects, not just the architecture is incredible. Whoever took these photographs is incredible. And there's some discussion on how this village was built. It was built 30 years ago. The architect's vision for architecture being integrated into part of the landscape, everything being walkable. The heating will be electric rather than fuel powered. So this is sort of like a dream village that was created. This is someone's house. This is not someplace that you or I will probably ever live. Incredibly beautiful, though, especially the photographs. This photographer is very gifted. Look at this picture. It's an incredible picture. We're going to save it. And there's quite some discussion here about the influence. The architect discusses what influenced him and why he built things the way that he did and the collaborations that took place. I found the pictures most interesting because it looks like something from another world. Just absolutely magical. I don't think I would mind going there. I think the work we have done in Avoriaz is just as much town planning as is architecture. We have thought very hard all the time about linking the buildings together and making every area accessible by foot. It is important that people that visit Avoriaz get out and see the town, participate with it. The architecture and urbanism is driven by the landscape. The area in front of the cliffs, you can place big buildings because you have the cliff behind it, so they don't seem so big. In another part of the town, the small hill, we have the smaller buildings. And then on top of the cliff, you can also put big buildings as they blend in with the skyline. The Romans talked about genius loci, understanding the genius of the landscape that is already there and working within that landscape. Very cool. This is just for you to enjoy at a later time. We have some mid-century home brochures and ephemera. Mid-century to me is so much fun to look at. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's a nostalgia thing. I grew up visiting a lot of houses that looked like this. Not houses I lived in personally, but houses that my friends would have lived in. As a kid, I always just kind of lived in like sort of very normal, ordinary looking apartments. With the exception of one house that was actually two houses that were quite nice. That are now, one of them is knocked down and the other one is haunted and nobody's lived in for like 30 years. I'm not sure how I found this or where I came across this. This is the stuff I was looking at last night. Because I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm always sharing what I find interesting, but the stuff that's on what I find interesting is stuff that I found months and months and months ago. So the stuff I'm sharing with you today, I found months and months ago. I'm already up to like episode 80 with the links that I have. So I'm like, you know what? Let me put in some stuff that I'm looking at right this minute. So this is stuff that I'm looking at right this minute. This is Demetrio, the guest house in detail, and the surrounding houses. Not sure how I ended up here. But I found this to be incredible. Just the ancient juxtaposed with the modern. Like in the United States, we have old stuff and modern stuff, but not to the extent that you see in Europe. In Europe, there's like, when we say ancient, we mean like, 9th century. You go out in the woods and, hang out in some place that was built like 1,000 years ago. I think in the United States, you've got places that existed, a couple hundred years ago. There have been Indian sites that have been discovered that are thousands of years old, but those, by and large, have either been ignored or not given the seriousness that they should be given. Like, right? Like the mound, Serpent Mound. Like, how old is Serpent Mound? Does anybody know? Let's look it up. How old is Serpent Mound? 900 years old. So, I mean, that's old. But it's not really something that, that we really talk about a whole lot of, and we probably should. So you can go to the Serpent Mound and you can visit, and there's an $8 parking fee, and it's $4 per motorcycle, in case you want to go. Sometimes I like to go to really, really, really highfalutin intellectual places to see if I understand anything that's said. This has articles like real-time infrared processes in high-temperature QCD plasmas. Nah, elastic phase field approach for modeling cell mechanics and mechanotransduction. The pure spinor superfield formalism and twisted supergravity. All right, let's pick an article and see if we can understand what they're saying. This thesis investigates phenomenological implications of flux, compactifications in type I-111b string theory. In particular, we focus on the phenomena of gauge kinetic mixing and cosmic inflation in large volume scenarios in type 11b. In the first part, we discuss kinetic mixing in study settings with U1s from sequestered D brain sectors, focusing on mixing D3-D3 and D7-D7 brains. Strikingly, kinetic mixing is absent due to a non-trivial cancellation in rather generic scenarios. Specifically for D3 brains, precise calculations of string diagrams have previously demonstrated a cancellation on toroidal geometries. Also, field theoretic 10D supergravity approaches have shown that a cancellation remains at leading order between the contributions of B2 and C2. Okay, and then it goes on. So, string theory is the idea that our universe is a string in some sort of space, right? But it's not the only universe. There are other universes all around it, and they are all different strings. So each string is its own universe. That's what this is talking about. And it's saying, in the second part, we discuss cosmic inflation in string theory. We consider a scenario or type 11b where all moduli are stabilized, realizing a large volume and Minkowski minimum. So this is saying that there's certain things that are assumed in order to come up with this theory. So there's certain things that are assumed, and then they're sort of proven after the fact with all this math. But I guess one could argue, if they're assumed, is the math real, or is the math based upon what we'd like to be real? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't fully understand any of this, other than the math doesn't make sense for our universe. That's what it comes down to. Bottom line, we don't understand it, and we probably never will, not in our lifetime. This is something I found this week, and I just thought the colors were incredible. Look at that color. This is a man and a woman arguing. This is Saint Gustina disputing with Maximian. I don't know who Saint Gustina is. Let's see who Saint Gustina is, because I don't know who that is. Probably Saint Justina. So there's two saints named Justina, I guess. All that is known of Justina of Padua is from an apparent 12th century forgery that says she was baptized by Saint Prostigomachus, a disciple of Saint Peter and reputed first bishop of Padua, and was then martyred for her faith. Okay. I found this site. I'm not exactly sure what it is or what to make of it. I haven't really gone through it, but it looks like it could potentially be interesting. Kind of fun to look at. Looks like we have architecture, historical sites. This is a convent. A very pretty convent, I might add. Wow, look at that. Fancy, fancy. Okay. Last thing we're going to look at today, and this is the janitor's mysterious masterpiece. So there was a guy who passed away. He was a janitor. His landlord went in to clean out a garage that he rented and discovered that he had made a monumental installation that was adorned with shimmering foil and other discarded materials. Critics and scholars have debated whether Hampton's extraordinary artwork titled The Throne of the Third Heaven of the Nation's Millennium General Assembly was intended for public audience, or if it was a personal sanctuary meant only for himself, or perhaps for a divine spectator. Discovered quite serendipitously after his death in 1964, Hampton had been renting a garage in a Washington, D.C. alley that he used as his studio. The landlord, who was unaware of the contents, entered the garage and found the expansive artwork. The discovery was a complete surprise to the few that knew him. Hampton, a reclusive individual who had never married and lived in a small apartment alone, had not shared his work with others. His surviving family were not interested in claiming the artwork, so the landlord put it up for sale in a local newspaper. Luckily, an artist saw the ad and came to see it for himself, instantly recognizing the potential significance of the find, and he had the good sense to contact a friend who worked at the Smithsonian Institution. Harry Lowe arrived at the garage and later told the Washington Post that it was like opening Tut's tomb. Since its discovery, it has been housed at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. It stands as a seminal piece of American folk art and outsider art. The centerpiece is a throne-like chair flanked by altars and other religious iconography, reflecting a complex spiritual vision. He crafted an otherworldly space using aluminum and gold foil, light bulbs, and glass, and his technique involved arranging and layering materials for spectacular effect. He also left behind notebooks and binders written in an indecipherable code recording his visions. The text that accompanied his work still to this day has not been deciphered. The use of secret languages and cryptic symbols is not unusual among visionaries, and Hampton may have considered himself a Latter-day Prophet. Perhaps something from another world did visit James Hampton, but whether they were angels or aliens, it is unlikely that even he could say. The notebook has been scanned and is available to view online here. What is known of Hampton's life outside of his secret masterpiece is pretty standard. He was born in Ellery, South Carolina in 1909. After his mother's death in his childhood, he moved to Washington, D.C., where he lived with his older brother. His life was marked by simplicity and solitude, including a stint in the U.S. Air Force during World War II. After his service, he worked as a janitor for the General Services Administration in Washington, D.C., and he held that job until 1964. His work remains a significant yet mysterious landmark in American art. An untrained artist working in isolation, his legacy continues to inspire and mystify, a testament to the power of art to transcend the ordinary and illuminate the extraordinary. And it wouldn't be the last time that a janitor would shock the art world with his secret life. So this has happened before. There have been other times that that janitors have done.
This is pickleball? It's
No, stop. Oh, damn. No, come back. There we go. Okay, so we have reached the end of episode 62 of Stuff I Find Interesting. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'm working on the next one. Hopefully it'll come a little faster than this one. To be honest, this episode was a little slow being released because I was struggling with some physical and mental stuff. I'm a little better now. Getting a little better every day. Just normal stuff that involve getting older. It sucks, but it is what it is. I hope everyone has a magnificent week. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. And with that,